In the calm town of Ravenwood, settled in a segregated valley encompassed by thick woods and hazy mountains, life was basic and unsurprising. The townsfolk approached their day-to-day schedules, ignorant that something was going to change. The main sign came one fresh harvest time morning, when the birds quit singing. Evelyn, a young lady with a sharp feeling of her environmental factors, was quick to take note. She remained in her nursery, her hands covered in the dirt as she watched out for her late blossoming blossoms. The quiet was disrupting, a distinct difference to the standard prattle of sparrows and robins that consumed the space. She gazed toward the sky, clear and blue, yet there was a greatness that she couldn't exactly put. By noontime, the quietness had spread through the town like a crawling mist. The kids, regularly snickering and playing in the roads, remained nearby their homes, their eyes wide with anxiety. The business people, who ordinarily welcomed each other with bright chit-chat, murmured in quieted tones. Something was off base, however nobody knew what. That evening, the town was overwhelmed in an obscurity thicker than any they had at any point known. The moon, which ordinarily washed the town in delicate silver light, was taken cover behind thick mists. The roads, typically lit by lights, were shrouded in an impervious darkness. Evelyn sat by her window, looking out into the evening, her heart beating with a feeling of fear she was unable to shake. And afterward, similarly as the clock struck 12 p.m., it started. A low, thundering sound that appeared to come from profound inside the earth. It began as a weak vibration, scarcely recognizable, yet immediately filled in force until the very ground appeared to shudder underneath their feet. Evelyn's heart dashed as she held the edge of the windowsill, her breath coming in shallow heaves. The sound developed stronger, a stunning thunder that consumed the space, shaking the walls of the houses and shaking the windows. Maybe the actual earth was alive, squirming and moaning under the heaviness of some concealed power. The townsfolk, panicked, crouched in their homes, petitioning God for the commotion to stop. And afterward, as abruptly as it had started, the sound stopped. The quiet that followed was significantly really startling, a void that appeared to swallow all expectation. Briefly, nobody actually considered moving, to inhale, as though the smallest sound could set off the arrival of the alarming commotion. Evelyn stood frozen by the window, her eyes wide with dread. She stressed to see through the obscurity, looking for any indication of what had caused the unsettling influence. Yet, there was nothing. No development, no light, just a thick, severe darkness that squeezed in on all sides. Similarly, as she loosed, believing that maybe the most awful was finished, she saw it. A shadow, hazier than the actual night, moving quietly through the roads. It was scarcely noticeable, a flash at the edge of her vision, yet it was there. Also, it was drawing nearer. Evelyn's heart beat in her chest as she watched the shadow move. It crawled along the ground, moving and changing shape as it crawled nearer to her home. She needed to shout, to caution the others, yet her voice was trapped in her throat, choked by dread. The shadow stopped right external her window, drifting in the air like a wisp of smoke. Briefly, it appeared to concentrate on her, as though it realized she was there watching. Then, all of a sudden, it shot away, vanishing into the obscurity. Evelyn wheezed, at last getting comfortable with herself. She staggered back from the window, her heart hustling. She needed to caution the others. Regardless, that thing was not normal. It was something evil, something that had no bearing in their reality. She hurried out of her home, her feet beating against the cobblestone roads as she ran from one way to another, beating on the wooden boards and yelling for the townsfolk to awaken. Gradually, individuals arose out of their homes, their overcomes pale with dread and disarray. "There's an out thing there," Evelyn yelled, her voice shudder. "I saw it. A shadow, a dimness such that I will most likely never see again previously. It's traveling through the town." The townsfolk traded stressed looks, mumbling among themselves. A few excused her cases, crediting them to the odd occasions of the evening, However, others could recognize the fear clearly and realize that she was coming clean. Senior Samuel, the most established and savvy man in Ravenwood, ventured forward. His creased face was drawn with worry as he tended to the group. "Anything that it is, we should try to avoid panicking," he said, his voice consistent yet bound with desperation. "We've confronted numerous risks previously. However, this is a novel new thing. We should cooperate to safeguard our town." The townsfolk gestured, their trepidation tempered by the senior's words. They immediately coordinated themselves, framing gatherings to watch the roads and oversee the town. Lights were lit, projecting glinting light into the dimness, and weapons were accumulated. However, nobody understood what great they would do against the shadow. As the night wore on, the feeling of fear just developed further. The watchers announced seeing temporary looks at the shadow, consistently at the edge of their vision, in every case barely too far. It was by all accounts playing with them, driving them on a wild pursuit through the roads, just to disappear into the evening. Before breakfast, the shadow had vanished, leaving the town depleted and tense. Individuals accumulated in the square, their countenances fixed with stress and dread. Senior Samuel remained before them, his forehead wrinkled in thought. This shadow, this concealed adversary, it isn't similar to anything we've looked previously, he said seriously. It is something old, something that has been stirred. We should figure out what it is and how to stop it before it consumes every one of us. The townsfolk mumbled an arrangement. However, nobody knew where to start. The shadow was not normal for any danger they had experienced. There were no tracks to follow, no signs to disentangle. Maybe the actual murkiness had woken up and they were weak to stop it. Evelyn, in any case, would not surrender. She realized that there must be a method for overcoming the shadow to safeguard her town. She went through hours in the town's little library, poring over old texts and failed to remember books, looking for any notice of an animal like the one they confronted. Days transformed into weeks, and the shadow kept on tormenting the town, its presence developing further as time passes. Individuals of Ravenwood developed fatigued and apprehensive, their once very close local area disentangling under the strain. Dread went to doubt, and soon they started to turn on one another, blaming their neighbors for being allied with the murkiness. However, Evelyn persevered. She knew that the way to overcoming the shadow lay previously, throughout the entire existence of the town and the land on which it was assembled. Lastly, after endless restless evenings, she tracked down it, a section in an old text that discussed a revile, put on the land by a wrathful soul some time in the past. The revile had been fixed away by the town's organizers, concealed profound inside the backwoods that encompassed Ravenwood. Be that as it may, something had upset the seal, delivering the soul's rage upon the town. The shadow was the appearance of that revile, and it wouldn't stop until it had consumed everything in its way. Equipped with this information, Evelyn understood what she needed to do. She accumulated a little gathering of the most valiant townsfolk and wandered into, not set in stone to find the wellspring of the revile and stop it unequivocally. The excursion was slippery, the backwoods dim and curved, as though the very trees were planning against them. In any case, Evelyn drove the way, her assurance steady. At long last, they arrived at a getting somewhere down in the heart free from the timberland, where an old stone-raised area stood, shrouded in greenery and ivy. The air was thick with a discernible feeling of perniciousness as they moved toward the special raised area. Evelyn could feel the heaviness of the revile pushing down on her, taking steps to crush her soul. However, she prepared herself. It was their main opportunity to know that this. With the assistance of the townsfolk, she started to recite the mantra she had tracked down in the antiquated text, the words unusual and unfamiliar on her tongue. The ground shuddered underneath them, and the air snapped with energy as the revile retaliated, frantic to stay free. Yet Evelyn didn't waver. Yet again she poured everything that is in her, every last bit of her will, into, not entirely settled to seal the revile away. The shadow showed up, squirming and contorting in the air above them, its structure moving and changing as it became suddenly angry in fierceness. Briefly, it appeared to be like the shadow would overpower them, its haziness spreading across the clearing like a wave. In any case, Evelyn stood firm, her voice transcending the tumult as she finished the last expressions of the spell. With a stunning thunder, the shadow imploded in on itself, drew once more into the special stepped area as the revile was fixed away again. The air cleared and the harsh weight lifted, leaving the getting washed in the delicate light free from sunrise. The townsfolk gazed in stunningness as the shadow vanished, their trepidation gradually giving way to alleviation. They had made it happen. They had crushed the inconspicuous foe. Evelyn sank to her knees, depleted yet victorious. She had saved her town. However, she realized that the triumph had included some significant pitfalls. The revile had been fixed away, yet it would continuously be there, hiding underneath the surface, hanging tight for the second when it very well may be released again. In any case, for the present, Ravenwood was protected. The town gradually got back to business as usual, individuals revamping their lives and their confidence in each other, and keeping in mind that the memory of the shadow would wait, a sign of the haziness that had once taken steps to consume them. They knew that as long as they stood together, they could confront anything that difficulties lay ahead.